The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Okay, it's Andrew Peters here. I'm having a bit of trouble with this setup because I did an audio check and then I got a constant chime. I think that's now disappeared, but as a result I seem to be almost 10 minutes into this recording. I think there's one person present. If you could just make a comment or ask a question to see whether you can see things and hear things okay. So just a checkbox for me. I'm on air and showing screen. I have started the recording. I should be on air with sound and the webinar should have started. Can anyone out there hear me? Okay. While we're waiting for it to turn to 8 o'clock, if you have any questions that you'd like to pose about previous webinars or about the Autotrader, please type them in now. And if you just joined, we're just waiting for it to turn to 8 o'clock in Sydney, Australia. And while we do so, I invite you to ask any questions. Okay, found another button that allows me to see what you can see. That's handy. And we'll just wait another minute and then we'll make a start. Apologize for this strange beginning to this webinar, but the issue is a little bit beyond me. And as far as I can see, I am recording and people can see the screen and they should be able to hear me. Okay, and welcome to this, the last webinar in the series sponsored by Donna Forex. I just need to get myself a little bit organized here and then we shall move on. So as always, I need to show my risk warning and disclaimer. This information in the webinar is educational purposes only. and you accept full responsibility as normal. And I always like to point out that we should always trade responsibly. It's our own money that we're trading with, so deal with it sensibly, and trading can be an enjoyable pastime or an enjoyable way to earn a living if you've mastered the art fully. Okay, as I mentioned, this is the last webinar for the series, and so it's going to be in two parts. The first part is what we have done, and by that I mean we'll look at a series of results. And then part two is going to be what we can do with the Autotrader, just to make sure that I've covered all the variabilities that you can use in setting the Autotrader to test and to run strategies. Okay, so what we've done, a range of strategies, a trend confirmation strategy or trend continuation using the MACD as the confirmation and the MAs as the trend indicator. We've done a pullback on the trend using RSI or a MACD. We've done divergence using MAs that are shifted and RSI. We've done a trend line break where we've mimicked a trend line made by drawing with a smooth moving average. We've done a weekend gap trade. We've simulated a Forex Power Pro strategy by Ross Horn using MAs and RSI. And then what I did was, instead of using the traditional exit, I used the dynamic exit based on divergence, which is taken from this one here that we did. Here we used the divergence to enter a trade, and in this case I've used the divergence in a reverse manner to exit the trade. And then we also did a trade with just using RSI, and that strategy will be available to the FX Autotrader members in September. And then I also did another trade that a strategy that I picked up from the web by Brian Wolf, I think it was. Again, just using an MA crossover and RSI, and then using a higher time frame filter to make sure we're trading in the direction of the longer term trend. And I see we've got a few more attendees at the moment. I apologize for starting early, but I've had some issues with getting this webinar up and running, and it looked like I was running out of time. So I've made a start, but you haven't really missed much. And if I just take you back one, then apart from the risk disclaimer, which I'm sure you'll all be familiar with, what we're going to do today is show a little bit what we've done, some of the strategies we've managed to make, and then spend most of the time on a quick run through with the Autotrader and how you can operate it and what sort of things you can do to initiate your own strategies. Okay, I had a very frustrating day today with my coder trying to resolve a bug in a new version of the Autotrader. But we finally got over that an hour ago, but if I sound a bit frazzled, then that's my excuse for tonight. Anyway, let's start. You can ask questions whenever you want to. I actually haven't yet accidentally closed the question box. So if you do want to ask questions, I think you can see how to do it from your end, and hopefully I'll pick it up on my end. Okay, the first strategy we did was a trend following strategy using moving averages. Very simple, for trend direction, and then the MACD for confirmation. And when we optimized that and back tested it, I finished up without spending too much time. The best I could get was something that looked like this, where remember that we did all our back tests starting from January 2012 and did it through the end of June 2015, so 3.5 years or about 40 months. And so with that particular strategy, which we took from Investopedia website, 2012 just profitable overall. 2013 was a negative year. We lost $300 on a $10,000 account. Strategy seemed to work really well in 2014, and in 2015, since this is only a bit less or about half a year, seems to be doing okay. So something's happened in the market in 2014, that's from 2014 onwards, that has made this particular strategy work okay. We did only trade in one part of the day, as shown by the profit loss by hours. So this is from about sort of the mid-London to the New York session. And we saw in a quant analyzer that Fridays could be negative. The rest of the days were positive of the week, and that the shorts were highly profitable, but the longs, we didn't make much profit. So that's a quant analyzer view of a backtest report. And here you can see the summary, where we look at the all trades, the long trades, and the short trades. And crucial thing is the profit factor, 1.4. It's not great, but it's better than 1, which is good. Total number of trades, only 154, so over 40 months, about one trade a week, essentially. Profitability, about 62% trades were profitable. And the other point that's crucial is the drawdown, just under 11%. And as I've said later in one of my webinars, would like to keep drawdowns to about 10 to 15%. So again, we're not making all that much profit. Total net profit 5,000 over 3.5 years, but it's certainly better than losing. So that was one strategy that we successfully made and automated and backtested. And the second one was where we did a similar to the first, but instead of entering at the start of a trend, we used RSI period 3 to enter on a pullback. And again, I showed how that was done, and the results here, a bit opposite to the previous one. We did really well in 2012, this strategy, even in 2013, a little profit in 2014, but so far in 2015, again, we were negative. So this wouldn't be a strategy that I would go with. We found out that there were 2 times a day when that strategy worked best, and those were from 0 to about 6 hours. So that's the first hours of the 0 hours is the start of the Asian trading session. So that's about the New York session here, end of London, start of New York. All days of the week were okay, and this particular one worked well for the longs, but not so well for the shorts. Again, on my right, the bottom, 11% drawdown. Profit factor still 1.4, but yeah, you wouldn't want to be trading this one. It was okay in 2012, but that's about it. Let's look at the next one. This is one where we did a trend line break with an MA shift as exit. So we used a smooth moving average as a break of the trend line to enter, and then as an exit, we used this divergence method that I showed, which we normally use for an entry, but you can also use it for an exit. And that strategy looks more promising to me. So it's a bit hard to read, but 2012, so a $10,000 account, 2012, $2,000, $2,500 profit, just under 2,000, just under 2,000, and 5,400 in 2015. So it's really working well this year. Again, it runs 24/5 every day of the week, and longs and shorts are much closer, and there are June and November were the negative months in the past 3.5 years. Going across to the right-hand side, profit factor of 1.37 to 1.4, total net profit 11,000, so that's one of the better ones. Quite a few trades, just under 1,000 trades, so about 20 a month. And still the drawdown, still only 9.4%. And so again, that's sort of criteria we're trying to work towards. So this one does look to me quite promising, and worthwhile putting this on demo for a while to see how it goes going forward. Let's look at the next one. This is the one we call FX Power Pro. It was a strategy taken again from the net by Russ Horn using a MA cross, and we modified it a little bit because he was using MAs based on the highs and the lows, and we just used the median instead. I also added some scale-ins, and again, rather than using Russ's exit strategy, which was an MA crossover, I used this divergence type MA shift exit. And again, we've got just under 3,000 profit in 2012, a bit over 3,000 in 2013, go down in 2014, 1,500, and then so far in 2015, this is about half a year, we're up in $3,500. So it seems to be working better this year than it has in the past. Monday seemed to be a negative day. This is a quant analyzer report, and I can't replicate that result when I backtest. So as I've said a number of times, I'm sometimes concerned about how quant analyzer does this particular analysis. I'm happy with the overall because that matches up with what we see in the backtest report. But some of these, if we see it, and if it works on backtest, that's fine, but I wouldn't immediately act on this until I've actually done the backtest. Longs and shorts about equal profitability. And August was a bad month in the past 3.5 years. So 3 out of, because we haven't done 2015 August yet, but the past 3 Augusts have been negative. And so if we're prudent, we might decide not to trade in August, which is after all the summer holiday for the Europeans or the Northern Hemisphere, and December and January are also slightly negative or non-event months, and again that coincides with the Christmas type break, so not totally unexpected. So this one had a good profit, but notice down the bottom, around the bottom here, the drawdown is 20%. And so if we wanted to reduce that to 10%, if we're a conservative trader, then all we need to do would be to halve the lot size that we're taking. That would also obviously halve the profit to a bit over 5,000, but that still is over 1% per month, which is our minimum sort of that we want to get to. I'm not saying you can get you can get better results, but 1 to 2% a month is actually quite an industry standard for professional traders, even when they're trading manually. Those who trade martingale will, of course, get some higher percentages for a while, but then the system will crash. Let's see, we have another one. Okay, here was another simple moving average cross, again from someone else on the web, again with RSI and using a high time frame moving average to keep us on the right side of the longer term trend. Not fantastic profits, but we've got $500, $600 profit, $1,200, $500, and so far in 2015, $2,000 profit, all on a $10,000 account. The months, again, August is a negative month, as is January, and in this case, March has been as well. The shorts performed well, and the longs not so well. Or we got less profit on the longs. We're trading 24.5, and that's not too bad. All of these, by the way, are on the Euro USD currency pair on the 1 hour time frame. Total net profit I said 4,500, so again just over 1%. Profit factor is nicely high at 2.6, and percent profitable is nice high at 73%. And down the bottom, the really nice one, percentage drawdown is only 4%. And so if we are happy to live with 10%, then we could double the lot size for this particular strategy, bump that up to just under 10,000, and end up with about 2% per month. And so, again, a simple strategy, but with a bit of effort in optimizing, we can get a nice result. And no questions as yet, at least as far as I can see. So let's see what our next slide says. And this is one that's coming to the FX for Me people. I purely decided to try something on just having RSI as an entry, somewhere around about above 55 buy and below 45 sell. And then obviously with some proper trade settings, and lo and behold, these are the results of that strategy. This is also on the Aussie Kiwi currency pair on the 1 hour time frame, just to be different. And again, just under $1,000 in 2012, 2,000 in 2013, under 2,000 in 2014, and already so far 2,000 in 2015. April and October are the bad months. Tuesday seems to be not a good day. And again, the shorts have gone better than the longs. Profit factor 1.5, total net profit 6,500. So again, about 1.5% per month. And the drawdown, percentage drawdown down the bottom here, 8.65%, which is where we like it. So again, as I've said a number of times, a simple entry is fine, and it's a question if we can get the trade settings right, to take profits, trading stops, etc. Okay, so a quick reminder of what the comments I made about optimization. We should always only go for 3 to 5 years of backtest data. If we do it for 6 months, we'll get some nice results, but it doesn't really, unless you keep forward testing, you're not going to get a robust strategy. It'll work for a while, then it'll crash. Aim for 10 to 20% per annum growth or profitability. That's 1 to 2% per month with 10 to 15% drawdown. And always check backtest with annual performance. Is it in the 3 or 4 or 5 years? Are the number of years when it's very flat? And if it is very flat, would you be prepared to keep that strategy running if something happened like that again? Generally, we wouldn't. Test for robustness. That's the point I mentioned. The key factors often relate to the take profit and stop loss. And in general, timeframes of an hour perform better. Okay, now we've come to the issue of what can we do with the Autotrader, and this is one I'll go through is how you can use moving averages to describe candlesticks, different things you can do with MACD, how you can invert things like MACD and moving averages for entry triggers when you need it, how to use RSI for instance, overbought or oversold. There are scale-in facilities, so you can do some basket management. Well, with basket management, you can do some semi-grid trading. We can do some semi-automated trading. And you can do, instead of using stop losses to exit a trade, you can use exits based on moving averages, MACD, RSI, or moving average of RSI. And also coming soon in version 35, I think I'm up to now, having resolved the issue from early today, ATR-based take profit, stop loss, and trading stop. So I think we now move to our charts, and here is what I wanted to show you. So let's see how we go. And we're all used to sort of placing moving average on the chart of 100 or 50 or 200, whatever. But you can also use moving averages of period 1, which actually obviously is the candle itself. And before I go forward, so for instance, what I'm looking for is a way to describe let's enlarge this a bit. Okay, so we're probably all familiar with a bearish engulfing pattern. I'm up around here now. So when we have, in this case, a red or a white candle fully engulfing a green candle, and that occurs at the top of a trend, and that's a signal that it's likely that the pair will go down, which obviously did in that case. And the thing is that you can actually describe such a situation with moving averages. And if you can do it with moving averages, you can set it into the Autotrader and then you can automate it. So we add a moving average, and I said it's of period 1, and we'll make it simple. And we can apply, let me take it in order. I apply to the close first. I'll make that my red one. And now I add a second moving average candle, second moving average, period 1, simple, but I apply it to the open. And then I'll give it a different color, make that lime green. Just move up my question box in case I can't do it. Okay, and so let me make that one bit larger. And so I'm now up in this area here. And what we can see is that the red, in this case, has moved below the green. So the fast has gone below the slow. And that then, and we'd like this candle in a bearish engulfing situation to be fairly large. In this case, I think I'm on a 4-digit thing, so it's about 14 pips. And so we can also specify in a moving average crossover by how much. And so by this simple method, I've now described myself a bearish engulfing pattern, or obviously, if we're looking at the other way, but it has to happen near the top of a curve. If I'm looking for, and I've got one here, let's assume that that was the right distance. But again, I've done a moving average crossover here. So you can't obviously use this by itself because that happens quite a few. But if you have another indicator, be it RSI or MACD, which by which you define the top, for instance, RSI may be overbought at 80 or something, and combine that with a signal like this, then we have a reversal signal, a bearish engulfing reversal signal. To enter that on the Autotrader is quite simple. And if I go down to my moving averages, label 5, and I'm just using this for an entry, so I'll use my TF2. No, I won't. I'm going to use this for entry, so I would make that to true. I would want the slope to be correct. I want that to be pointing in the right direction. I want my crossover pips, oops, and I don't want to use it for exit. So I want to use my crossover pips, and I might want it to be a good sized candle, so I might enter 15. And then I'm using it for exit. The time period, in this case, I'm doing a 60-minute chart, so I put that in I'm doing a period 1. I'm not shifting it, it's simple. MA1 is at the close price, MA2 is also 1, but it's at the open. And it's also and it has a euro shift. So here's my period SMA, my MA1 period of 1, my MA2 period of 1, but one's put to the close and one's to the open. And then I've now set myself I'll click OK. I've set myself this pattern that's here. Obviously I need to combine it with as I said, with something that indicates that it's reached a peak. Now the other one is a bit more interesting. We can also do doji candles. In particular, I'm just going to scroll through, see if I can find one, either a hammer or a hanging man or a shooting star, whatever we like to call it. And just bear with me while I find one. And I'm sure I had a better one. Maybe, okay. Here's a nice one. Let's look at this one here. So it's a long tail and the body is down the bottom. And so we can describe this in a different way. So I've got my MA1 at the close and open, but I now can add a third moving average in MA1. But if I apply that to the median, and I make that yellow, for instance, and I hope you're still with me, but what you can see in this part here, which I think I can do, where was it? Insert shape, ellipse. Okay, so we're in this bit here, and this is actually would mean using two moving average crossovers. So it's but in this case the close is below the median and the open is below the median. Normally you wouldn't have that. For instance, if you look at a normal candle, say down here, then the median is always between the close and the open. But in this case here, when you have a shooting star like that, both the close and the open are, in this case, below the median. And if we do that in reverse, what we call a hammer, which happens at the bottom, which we have here. So I'm down at this point here. We can see a hammer, and we can see that both the close and the open are above the median, and so this would be a signal to take. You could use this as a signal to do a buy, obviously in conjunction again with an RSI oversold, for instance. And for that we need to use two sets of moving averages in order to define that, and again we can do that in the Autotrader. I won't do that just now, but that's an option that we have. Okay, I want to leave that. Now the other one that I talked about is MACD. Now MACD is normally looks like this. So I'm sure you'll all be familiar with it. I could probably go like that at the moment. And there are two things I want to point out. One is that if you ever need another moving average crossover, then you can use MACD, because as we saw, MACD is just two EMAs, nothing more, and the histogram just is the distance between those two EMAs. And so 12 and 26, and I can show that on here. If I add a moving average of 12 and a moving average of 26, then it's a bit messy. And I was getting too smart myself. It needs to be EMA, and it needs to be applied to the close. And 12 needs to be an EMA, and also applied to the close. And now hopefully I've got it right. And so where this crosses here is exactly the same where it crosses where the histogram crosses. It almost crosses there, but not quite. And so you can see here that the cross of the EMAs is the same as the histogram moving above or below the line. So that's one thing you can do. And then with the Autotrader, we can also obviously add levels to it. And what 0.0001, for instance, let's see where that goes. Okay, that one's down there. If we make it's better. So for instance, you might decide that you want to take a reverse trade when the MACD has risen above the level here, 003, which is equivalent to a pips crossover distance between here and here. But so we can use this feature in the Autotrader to specify. Now we might obviously want to use this as a sell signal, and the way that things are normally think, if the histogram is above the zero line, the Autotrader would normally take a buy trade. Now you want it to take a sell trade. There are two things we can do. One is we can go to our Autotrader and we go to our lovely reverse entry, and we can specify it to be true. So whenever this signals a buy, EA will now take a sell because we've set it to reverse. That's one way you can do it. The other way that I want to show you was that you can inverse the MACD. So if I put another MACD on here, and instead of the fast one being 12, I just make this one 26 and this one 12 and click OK, then what we'll see is that I have the exact inverse. So wherever this is the normal one up top, this is the inverse one. So as you can see, we've just inverted it from above and below the zero line. And so in this case now, if we wanted to take a sell at this position, we reverse the MACD, and I can't quite see the line there, but that would, because that's above 3 minus 03 would be out here, and that would now then take a sell, which is what we want to do. So to show you on the Autotrader, if I go down to MACD, and so we'll make this true, but instead of having this 12.26.9, I will just make that 26.12.9, and then set my levels here for entry. And there's always a that's for the buy and that's for the sell. So again, that's one way of getting around of using MACD in a different manner, and especially if you wanted to combine this, you might also want to do this on a once the candle has really surged. So you might have a large crossover pip distance on a candle. You might want to combine it, so that would be a buy. And so if you need to get all signals obviously pointing the same direction in order to take the trade. So inverting a MACD can be helpful, and you can always do the same with moving averages as well if you want to do exactly the opposite of what you're seeing. Once you start playing with it, you'll get the idea as to why that becomes important. Okay, the other ones that we can do, let me get rid of MACD. We can also use RSI. And again, you'll be familiar, I've made it. Let me make this more the traditional period 14. So you may want to find settings at which you can do a reverse. So with the Autotrader, we can set it so that it would take a sell when RSI is overbought at, say, 70 on period 14, and that it would take a buy when it's oversold at, say, 30 or whatever. Again, you can see quickly from this thing that that doesn't always work depending on how big a profit margin you want. Obviously, if you took it here and were happy with a 90 pip gain, then you've won a trade. But if it went any further, it's obviously going down the wrong way for you. But again, we can set that on our RSI module in the Autotrader. Now I'm just looking, and the final thing we can do is you can also put moving averages of RSI. And to do that, we click from the navigator panel, we left click and drag it onto the RSI indicator window, let go, and then we apply it to the first indicator data. And we could do this one. And then it'll put a moving average of RSI on here. And we can even add a second one. Again, we must apply it to the first indicator. Let's make this 40, green. And so we can have you can run a double moving average crossover of RSI if you wanted to. Quickly, you can see from here you'd need to test it out, but crossed up here, you would enter here and you would exit, you'd enter a negative, enter a sell trade here, almost do it. You would go in for a buy at this position here, and you've got yourself 100 pips. So it is possible. The only drawback with the Autotrader is that when you're using this, the back testing is agonizingly slow. And so my recommendation is to only use it perhaps on a daily chart, and where you can actually visually backtest. And by visually backtesting, I mean if you set up your indicators and you can use your left arrow key and go back and just mark up each time that you would get a signal and look at how good that signal performed. And so you can, it's a tedious process, but that's how I started off before I got my strategy test organized. You can work your way back through it and double check on how well this particular strategy might have performed, because a double moving average of RSI or even a moving average of RSI is very, 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 very slow with strategy tester. The reason for that is that all the computations have to be done. Now, that's all very well for automated trading. I've got a lot of people who say that they don't like EAs, and for that reason, I've always made the point that you can use the AutoTrader even if you just wanted to test things out, test ideas. You don't have to trade with it. But you can also use it in a semi-automated method, and by that is that we have this manual confirmation and the manual confirmation by email. And what happens if we set this to true, and you can do, once you set up your email, you can set that to true as well. You can then set up whatever strategy you want to run, say just a moving average crossover. And whenever that position is reached, whenever those conditions are met, you'll get a little pop-up screen, which I think I can illustrate if I do it here. Yeah, okay. Now this haven't entered my email address, but you get a similar box like that with an alert which says, conditions met, do you want to enter the trade? And once, if you do that, then let's get rid of these lines. Then you might decide, let me get rid of all of these rigid lines. Okay, and I might make it, okay. What you now might, so let's say that you have received, I want to get back to my 1 hour, make it smaller, no, make it larger. Okay, let's assume that we got a signal at the right hand of the screen that we wanted to go for a sell, and you don't know how much to set your, but you don't know your take profit and stop loss targets. So what you could decide to do, you might use your Fibonacci and say, well, I want to see, I still expect, for instance, let's assume based on long-term trends, I'm still expecting this to go up. So actually I want to take a buy trade, but I'm going to set my stop loss. So if the Fibonacci is here, I'm going to set a stop loss at this position here, and then I'm going to hope that it will go forward from there. Now, as the trade progresses, actually your stop loss was hit, and in fact the 61 was hit as well, but you did go forward. It's not as good example as I'd hoped, but let's, for instance, do the same thing. Well, let me get rid of this one here. And let's say that we'd come up here. And now let's say that we were here and we had a signal to sell. Obviously, you'd want to be about here. So you can then allow saying, well, based on Fibonacci, it could retrace up to here or go. And you might, instead of that, you might want to do a Fibonacci extension, which is when you take it from here down to there. And that's your extension there. So the point I'm trying to make is you'll get an alert, and then you might want to take some support resistance lines that you follow on the daily or the monthly. You might want to do some Fibonacci analysis, whatever analysis you want to do, or you might have another indicator that you like to see whether it confirms, and that then will enable you to go back to your expert advisor. And remember now, it hasn't taken the trade because it just alerted you to it. You might now decide that 120 is a good take profit and a stop loss is 40 or whatever. You can make that decision because you've been alerted to the fact that entry condition has been met, and this allows you now to set the rest of your trade management, your trading stops and stop losses, etc. And then only when you're ready and you click this little box that you would have, you would say, yes, I'm ready to enter, and you're now using the Autotrader, if you like, as a trade manager based on your analysis of the charts after you've been alerted to an entry signal that you had devised yourself. So that's how we use the Autotrader as a semi-automated EA or semi-automated trading. I think I need to show you a couple of other things and then we're going to wrap up. So that covered this one. I've also recovered the reverse entry. There are two other rules about entries and exits. Normally in entry, the rule is that all conditions need to be met. So condition 1 and condition 2 and condition 3. If you have 3 entry conditions and you're happy that if any one of them met, then you're happy for the trade to be taken, then all you do is set that to true. So it now becomes an OR condition. The exit is normally an either or. So as long as one of your exit conditions are met, that's when trade will exit. If you want all conditions to be met for exit, you change that to true. You can enter and exit at candle close or whenever. And this is another important one that's come in, and normally EAs work best when they work in the buy, sell, buy, sell, buy, sell sequence. So we set that to true. There's sometimes times when you don't want that to happen, and so you can set that to false if you want to. We can do partial closes. I don't want to go into any of that. And the other thing that I wanted to show you was scale-ins or grid trading. So we can scale in, and I can set the scale-in values to scale in another trade at 10 after opening, another trade at 20, another trade at 21, another trade at 45, or whatever. And then I can set my take profit and stop loss for those individually. Or if that's part of a grid sequence, I can say I want to manage this by basket. So both the initial trade and the scaling trades, we'll treat them as a basket. And all we do, manage by basket, we set to true. And then we go down all this list and we can take profit in pips, in dollars, or a percentage of balance. We can do the stop loss in pips or dollars, etc. So we have quite a few options. If you want a martingale, then all you do is you use minus numbers. So you scale in at minus 10, at minus 20. Now, if at minus 20 you wanted to take a larger lot size, you can't vary the lot sizes, but I could enter one at minus 22 and then another one at minus 30, whatever. I can't mix negative and positive numbers here, unfortunately. So you can either martingale or you can scale into profitable trades. And then the same thing applies. You can set your scale-ins individually, or you can manage that as a basket, which is what you normally do when you do a martingale. So that option exists for you as well. Remember, a martingale, do set some form of stop loss, because otherwise things can run away with you. We could obviously do trade time settings for 2 lots of different hour settings, as well as every day of the week. And one more thing, I said I would show you the new version. And if I click on that, which is now version 35, and the one thing we'll see there, everything else is the same, apart from the fact that we now have ATR. So we can set the ATR period to whatever number we want. 14 is the most common one, but we can now also set initial take profit. Instead of setting it by pips, we can set it by a multiplier of ATR. So you might want a multiplier of 5. So the average range on the 1 hour is 20 pips at the particular time. Then at 100 pips, the take profit would be taken. Same for the stop loss and same for trailing stop. And the same things applies for your initial and re-entries, and even in your basket management, there are also ATR-based stop losses and take profits and trading stops by ATR. So that gives us the full flexibility of what we call dynamic exit, rather than the hard-based pip ones. So we can do dynamic exits using ATR, or we can do any dynamic exits using moving average crossovers in RSI, etc. Excuse me. Okay. All right, I think that's it. Now I've managed. No questions. Let me get back to my PowerPoint. And I think I've covered each of these steps. And let me now move on. So maybe a bit rushed, but I hope you've got the gist of it. This is our final webinar, as I said. These are the key links that I've been suggesting. If you're new to trading, babypips.com. If you want to set up a proper backtester with proper tick data, the easiest one I found is tickstory.com. They advertise on Donna Forex. Analyzing of the strategy test reports is, I think, a very crucial and useful function. And Strategy Quant is the people to go to for that with the quant analyzer. And to buy the Autotrader using the Donna Forex link, click to go. Now, for this final session, I've tried not to be a salesperson, but yes, I would like to sell more Autotraders. So there's a special deal for till Sunday, the 13th of September. That's the lucky day. You can buy the Autotrader still at the current price of 197. From the 14th of September, I'll be raising that to 297, given all of the enhancements I've been adding to it over the past year and a half. Also, if you purchase it before the 13th through the Donna Forex link, apart from the normal set files you get as bonus, I'll give you 3 extra bonus set files that we've done, the good ones that I've just shown you in this webinar. And also, just to help you on the way to your own strategy making. If you have an idea and you're a bit stuck with back testing it on Strategy Tester, I'm happy to help you out doing one of your strategies and do my best to optimize it for you over a 3 to 5 year period. So that's the offer. It's only valid till Sunday the 13th of September. So please think about it, and I hope that you will join the Autotrader Club. And that's it then. I thank you very much for your attendance over the various times. I apologize for any poor qualities of recordings. And I did manage to miss out on questions from time to time, but hopefully the recordings are okay. And as always, my address is here, info@diyforexskills.com. I do have a Facebook page where I talk about both the order trader as well as manual trading. So I wish you all the best in your trading, and hope you are successful, and hope that you enjoy the journey. And always like to hear back from people, so please do email me if you'd like to discuss anything. So until we meet again in dollar Forex land somewhere, this is Andrew Peters signing off. Bye for now.